Hi everyone. So this is the fourth lesson of Managerial Economics, Advanced Pricing Techniques. First, we will try to understand what is uniform pricing. So uniform pricing is charging the same price for every unit of the same product. So if the same product is sold at a uniform price, the same price, regardless of the quantity that the consumer purchases, we call it as uniform pricing. So when we take the price where the MR equals MC, marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that is uniform pricing. So there are some issues in uniform pricing technique. We call it as the curse of uniform pricing. In here, as you can see, according to the uniform pricing techniques, the price should be $7, but the supplier have the ability to sell until 6,000 units, because after that, if they keeps on supplying to the market, they are going to earn losses. So until 6,000, they have the ability to sell their product to the market. So in here, if the company uses uniform pricing technique, they will have a consumer surplus of ABU, the triangle. And then if they use this uniform pricing techniques, they will only be able to sell 3,000 units, and therefore they are losing the triangle of UDF, the other highlighted triangle. So let's say, what if? So the demand curve actually indicates the maximum price the consumer is willing to purchase the good at different quantities. So that means if actually a company, a manager is able to convince each consumer to purchase each quantity at their maximum price, then these two triangles will be revenue to that company. So these two triangles will convert into revenue for that company if they are able to do that. So that's why these two triangles are known as the curse of uniform pricing, because of uniform pricing, the managers, the company is losing on that revenue they could have earned. So price discrimination is charging different prices for the same product. So in price discrimination, there should be actually 2 points. That is the price discrimination. The different prices should not come from different costs. That is one. Here, the two crucial points for price discrimination. The same product should have different prices. So these products should be identical. They cannot be different products. So the same product should have different prices. And the other thing is, price discrimination should not come from cost difference. So again, if let's say there are two products, so their cost difference, so the price difference is higher than their cost difference. So that also indicates some amount of price discrimination, because their price difference is not fully explained through their cost difference. Some part of that price difference is coming from price discrimination. So in here, airlines is a good example, because airlines charge different prices according to their customers. So the leisure travelers are usually charged a lower price, and business travelers are usually charged a higher price because they have a inelastic demand based on their purpose. Then, according to marketing managers, the existence of a consumer surplus is evidence for underpricing. So marketing managers say that if there is some sort of a consumer surplus, that is evidence of underpricing. The price discrimination is used to capture consumer surplus. So why we use this price discrimination? So if you are actually uh, trying to capture that area highlighted, you have to be charging different prices for the same product. So that means you are using price discrimination. So price discrimination is used to capture this consumer surplus and convert that consumer surplus into their own profit. There are three conditions a firm requires to practice this price discrimination. First, the firm should have some degree of market power. So if a firm is unable to increase their prices, to change their prices without losing the entire market share, as you can see in the second diagram, there is a perfect inelastic demand. So if the firm increases the price, they are losing the entire market share, all the revenue. But in the first scenario, if they are increasing the market, if they are increasing the price, they are losing not the entire market share, but just some part of the revenue. That is known as market power. The firm is actually able to increase or change the price. Then the second factor is there should be cost-effective means to prevent consumer arbitrage. So let's say the same product is charged different prices in two markets. So there is a higher priced market and a lower priced market. So what a consumer will do if he identifies this difference, he will purchase from the lower priced markets and try to sell it at the higher priced market and try to pocket that difference. That is known as consumer arbitrage. So if that occurs after a certain time, the lower priced market will be aware of this and they will increase their prices, and eventually these markets will come to an equilibrium and there will no longer be price discrimination. So in goods and services that cannot be easily traded are likely to so in goods and services that cannot be easily traded are likely to experience price discrimination. So there are professional services like doctors, lawyers, engineers, architectural designers. So the patients, their customers cannot resell their services. So they have the ability to uh, perform price discrimination compared to other products, the suppliers. Then price elasticities must differ between buyers or groups of buyers. So if the price elasticity of demand of each consumer is same, then the firm has no ability to charge different prices for the same product. They have to charge the same price. Otherwise, they cannot actually sell that product to all of those consumers. There are three degrees in price discrimination. We have the first degree price discrimination, second degree price discrimination, and the third degree price discrimination. First degree price discrimination is if the firm charges the maximum price the firm is able to sell each unit at the maximum price the consumer is willing to pay, then that is known as first degree price discrimination. That means the entire consumer surplus, both of those triangles, the curse of the uniform pricing, have been captured by the firm. That is known as first degree price discrimination. But can a firm actually do this? No, in practical scenario, it's very difficult because the seller will have to have precise knowledge regarding the demand of each buyer for the good. So the price variety of demand for each consumer, why they need the product, everything should be known by the seller. And the seller also must negotiate, bargain for each unit sold. So that is very difficult. So the seller would have to bargain to a level where the consumer is willing to pay the maximum price they have in mind. The examples for first degree price discrimination are auction houses, automobile sales, internet auction. If you have seen auction houses, they are bidding for the maximum price. In automobile sales, if you go to purchase a car or vehicle, then usually you will see different prices might be charged for the same type of vehicle based on what the consumer is willing to pay and what they are able to pay. Then, when there is perfect price discrimination, the demand curve will be equal to the marginal revenue curve. Reason being that every unit sold adds revenue equal to the price. So in earlier scenario, there was a separate marginal revenue curve and a demand curve. But in here, the marginal revenue curve and demand curve is both same because if for every unit sold, you're going to earn a revenue that is equal to the price of that unit sold. So there's not going to be any consumer surplus here. Everything you see is the revenue of the firm. There's no consumer surplus. That's all the suppliers' revenue, their profits. Then second degree price discrimination. In second degree price discrimination, there are two forms. We have the block pricing and the two-part pricing. So block pricing, we'll discuss it after the two-part pricing. So the basic idea behind the second degree price discrimination is when quantity consumed increases, the marginal value placed on additional units decreases. Therefore, for goods or services where several units are purchased at once, price charge decreases as quantity increases. So with each quantity consumed, the marginal value that the consumer places on those units keeps on decreasing. So for goods where you purchase multiple units at a time, then for those types of goods, For higher quantities, price can be decreased. Two-part pricing. Pricing plan where the average prices decrease with the amount purchased. An example for two-part pricing is, let's say, a shoe fair. So at the entrance, you will be charged you have to get a ticket for the entrance, and the entrance fee can be quite costly. But after you enter, let's say all the available shoes and sandals, and they are sold at similar prices, at similar and lower price levels. So that's a two-part pricing. So what a consumer might do is they will try to compensate for their high entrance fee, and they will purchase more and more shoes. So that is a two-part pricing strategy that they have used there. So in two-part pricing, there's a fixed access charge for the right to purchase. And then there's a constant usage fee. Another example is in golf clubs. There's a higher subscription fee, but for each set of rounds you play, there is a constant usage fee. So if the consumer, so the total expenditure that is spent by a consumer will be equal to the fixed access charge A plus the constant usage fee, which is denoted by simple F, and the quantity the consumer purchases. So when the quantity increases, the average price reduces. So according to the value, the price have been adjusted, the products. So it is a pricing plan where the average prices decrease with the amount purchased. So when the quantity increases, the average price charged decreases. So it's easy to set the access fee and the constant usage fee if there is a identical consumer demand. So if the firm knows the consumer demand precisely, then the secondary price discrimination will capture all the consumer surplus. So if the firm knows precisely about each consumer's demand for the good, then they have the ability to capture the entire consumer surplus, which is similar to first degree price discrimination. So in here we have a individual demand curve of a golfer in North Wales Golf Club. So the previous manager had a uniform pricing strategy. We assume that MR equals MC is the point where the profit is maximized. But in here, if you consider all the factors, the fixed cost and the variable costs, you're left with a loss of $338,750. Now, another manager have come to Northwell Golf Club and he's going to implement price discrimination. So in here, we are assuming all the golfers in the club, there are 100 golfers, and all these golfers in the club are having identical demand. So in two-part pricing strategy, when the consumers are having identical demand, then the access fee, access fee will be equal to the consumer surplus, and the constant usage fee is equal to the marginal cost. That's how we are going to price here. Simple F equals marginal cost and A equals consumer surplus in such situations where there's identical consumer demand. So in here as well, we are taking in the same manner. And if we do that, we are left with a profit of $322,500. So as you can see, the two-part pricing strategy provided the firm with more profit compared to the uniform pricing strategy. Here, MC equals $10. That's why we take 10. And this part, the consumer surplus part, you have to obtain it. This triangle have to be opened, that is the consumer surplus. This is the profit calculated and the losses calculated for the entire golf club. So there are 100 golfers. You have to take the quantity multiplied by 100. So here the profit has been calculated by taking this entire part. That's why it's 125. This entire part is profit. Because now it's a first degree price discrimination. Because the firm knows precisely about each consumer's demand. So they have captured the entire consumer surplus. So that's their profit now. The substitution per golfer, that is that consumer surplus part for an individual golfer, is that amount. So Northwell, you don't consider the weekend non-retired golfers in the above scenario. So there are weekend. So in the first scenario we took we only considered the senior golfers, the retired ones. So there are weekend non-retired golfers. So in the weekend, there are non-retired golfers that are coming to the North 12 Golf Club to play golf. So they have not been considered. So the number of these weekend non-retired golfers are 100, and they also have identical demand curves to each other. So this is their demand curve. So the maximum subscription fee that they are willing to pay, that is their consumer surplus, we take this part, this triangle part, which is 120 minus 10 into 110 divided by 2. So that is the maximum subscription fee that a golfer, a non-retired weekend golfer, is willing to pay. this amount is lesser than the annual subscription fee that a senior golfer is willing to pay. So that means if we charge the same amount of subscription, we cannot charge different amount of subscription fee for these golfers. That cannot be done. There will be issues happening. So if we charge the same amount charged for the senior golfers, the same subscription fee, we are losing all of these weekend non-retired golfers. We are losing that revenue. So what can we do? We will have to charge a lesser subscription fee where the non-retired golfers can also join to the club. So what we can do is, so in a two-part pricing strategy, you can either charge a higher entrance fee and a very low constant usage fee. Then again, you can also charge a very low amount of entrance fee and then charge a higher amount of usage fee. Like in the book exhibition, the books are they do not have much a lower price. Some may consider them pricey. So there, the interest fee is much lesser. However, the usage fee can be high. So in here, what the Northwell Golf Club can do is they can reduce their access fee, their entrance fee, but they can, at the same time, they can increase their usage fee. Because in here, in so that's what we are going to do. So let's assume the price per round is set at 40. So before that, the price for a round was $10. That it was MC price, the marginal cost, not the MC price, that is the marginal cost. But now we are setting it at $40, and the interest fee, the membership fee will be much higher, which is equal to 120 minus 40, this square. The consumer surplus part again, if we take the constant USPH 40, the consumer surplus we get, that is the membership fee we are going to charge. So the membership fee accordingly will be $3,200, which is much lower than what the weekend non-retired golfers were willing to pay. However, they are getting a higher constant usage fee. So in this manner, the Northwell Golf Club have the ability to earn a profit of $390,000. So they are earning a higher profit than before. But compared to the previous case, they are not capturing the entire consumer surplus. They are leaving some sort of a consumer surplus out for the consumers. But still, by doing this, they have increased their profits. Then before we go to the third degree price discrimination, we will go for block pricing. So block pricing is a situation where uh, the the quantities are taken as are divided into blocks. So each of these blocks are charged different prices. So, for example, we have the scenario where it says buy two, get one free, buy five, get one free, then there are quality discounts. So, those are block pricing strategies. So, when the quantity increases, so there are has something called declining block pricing, and there's increasing block pricing. Declining block pricing means when the quantity increases, the price charged for each block of quantity, it keeps on decreasing. And there's also increase in block pricing where with the quantity increases, the price increases. The reason for that is there are some products where when the quantity increases, the social cost that goes into those products increases. Maybe the pollution or whatever the effort it takes to produce those products is high. So when the quantity increases, the price will increase. So here it is, this block pricing with 5 blocks. It's not capturing all the consumer surplus, but you have the ability to capture most of it to this strategy. Next, the third degree price discrimination. Firm sells, so in third degree price discrimination, here the firm sells in two markets. So the firm is selling the same product in two different markets. So in these different markets, there's a elastic market. The elasticity is different. The demand is different in these markets. There's a comparatively elastic market and a comparatively inelastic market. So to earn a higher amount of revenue, the firm is going to set their price at the level where the marginal revenue of both of these markets are equal. So at such a point, as marked here, when the marginal revenues are equal, a lower price will be charged for the elastic market, the comparatively elastic market, while a higher price will be charged for the comparatively inelastic market. So in that manner, the firm have the ability to obtain a higher amount of revenue.